Hey, chess lovers, welcome back to the Chessyard. This is Dhare Bagga, and just wanted to show you another game that I just played. Now, as you can see, I'm around 1900 rated player, similar rating for the opponent. And yeah, so we start off with me playing d4. Generally, I start with white from d4 instead of e4 or going for some other lines. My simple idea behind d4 opening is that I'm playing the first move which is already defended, right, with my queen, and I'm taking control of the center. Yeah, so that's more important. Opponent goes for d5. Generally, that's the standard response against d4. I develop my knight. Again, developing a piece and having a control in the center. Opponent goes for c5. Now I have two choices. I can trade straight away and lose the center pawn, or I can just develop my other pieces. So I generally go for bishop to g5. Opponent takes here. uh, Again, the idea of bishop g5 is to stop opponent from playing e6 straight away. So opponent takes here. I take back with my knight, uh, so that I'm not getting my queen too early into the game, because if you bring your queen into the game, suddenly knight comes in, and then you have to just move your queen again. So don't want to repeat those moves. Opponent develops the knight, trying to ask me in exchange. I continue with my development, playing c3. Opponent takes the knight, and now I take back with the queen. I can take back with the pawn as well, but now, because as I said, there is no knight threatening me, my queen to just move away, so I just placed it. Opponent develops their queen, and I think the theme of this game more so was that when to trade and when not to trade. Exchange, people generally offer you a lot of exchanges. There are times when when you should and when you should not. So try to understand that from at this different stages of the game, dependent on the piece activity, so that you can navigate to a good end game. Now here queen is developed. I can take the queen or I can just defend my pawn, right? What is the advantage or disadvantage of the same? So if I just let's say come back with my queen, defend the pawn, opponent gets that momentum, and then they continue developing, right? That's one way of operating this. The other can be, let's say I just push my pawn forward so that it's defended, let my opponent take, and I take back. In this case, what happens is we have a symmetrical pawn structure at that point in time, but which also means that my c pawn becomes an isolated pawn. An isolated pawn is the one which is not defended, or is not connected with the with any side, right? So if my sorry, this won't be an isolated pawn because I still have my e pawn. Otherwise, it would have been an isolated pawn. But yeah, so that can happen. Again, not really intuitive to begin with. So I just went with queen takes, which also gives me an advantage, because once my opponent takes, now they have doubled isolated pawns because there is no adjacent pawns to them. So yeah, so now this is much better for white than black. Now I play e3 again, not going to be not going for e4 suddenly to let the opponent grab it and probably go ahead with other lines. Uh, Opponent develops the light square bishop. I put my knight onto d2. I have to develop my knight as well. Opponent plays e6, trying to maybe take the bishop out. I play a3, just defending uh, any future dependency on my rook to defend the pawn on, if it was on a2. So I can now move my rook. I can even castle on the queen side. Those are the couple of pointers that that helps with. Opponent plays bishop onto e7, asking me to trade. Now again, me trading is leads to two things. One, opponent develops their knight, right? So that is in their favor, but the dark square bishop is a strong bishop for my opponent. And if you see what my piece is doing here, it's just eyeing an empty square, which in the future, if my opponent castles, this bishop will be of no use. So either I can trade off, or I can just bring it back again trying to be a bit solid slash, it can be called passive as well, because I'm retreating and not exchanging a dark square bishop. So I decide to take here. Both the moves were good. So even as computer says that, yeah, this is also a good move. So we exchange, and now I develop my light square bishop. Probably there were only two squares, and I went ahead with d3, eyeing this long diagonal. Opponent castles, and so do I. Computer suggesting you castle on the queen side so that you can push your pawns and create some attack. But I thought that this is more stable, so I went with the stable choice. Now, as you can see, this is move number 13 of the game, where I have castled. Right, so in first 13 moves, we have exchanged our queens, and we have castled. We both have a knight and a bishop and two rooks along with some pawns. uh, as I see it, I have slight advantage because these are double isolated pawns against a good pawn structure. So yeah, I would prefer this over the double pawns. So yeah, let's see how this game goes from here on. So my opponent puts their knight onto c6, and I try to pin the knight. So my idea was, okay, I don't want to take this knight for sure because that helps my opponent, fix their pawn structure. But if the opponent wants to trade off the bishops, let's say, I'll be happy to, because I feel more confident going into an end game with opponent having some pawn weaknesses. That's what happens in the game. Opponent offers me a bishop trade, uh, and I thought of taking it, uh, because again, as I said, it would be helpful. But then I thought, ki, okay, why should I? And maybe I can convert it into a light square bishop endgame, right? So I just bring back my bishop, asking, and opponent moves their rook to c file, which again doesn't make much sense. I develop the knight, putting it onto f3, moving it to a more active square, and asking for a knight trade because my opponent was in a exchanging mode. So I went ahead. Opponent denies the exchange now. So I was hoping that opponent takes, and I take back with the bishop. This bishop would eye in the towards the long diagonal, and that would be helpful for me because light square bishop for both the players, same color bishops, and yeah, generally it's better for white. So as soon as my opponent moves here, now again I have two choices. I can defend my pawn with either rooks, right? That's the primary objective, the primary way of handling it. If I just move my pawn, suddenly I lose on to a3 because there will be two attackers, and yeah, that would be overloaded. So I thought, okay, let me take the knight now, which is again the best move in the situation. And I was also thinking that what would my opponent take with, either the rook or the pawn. And in either case, that helps me because let's say they will take with the pawn, I centralize then my rook attacking the bishop, and then in the future I'll try to double up my rooks by placing one of them on d4 and then other one on d1, right? That was my thought. And if my opponent takes with the rook, which in the game they do, then I have a fork, which allows me to probably trade one more piece, which does happen. And when I trade this piece, as you can see, I've the opponent made couple of move rooks to just go back and then take. So the advantage is more towards white, is what I feel. And computer also saying plus 0.39. Again, it would be an interesting end game to convert. It is not that simplistic, but yeah, I have something to work upon with, right? So now I get onto my job of playing with my rooks. So rook a to d1 is trying to centralize. Opponent tries to do the same. And in this position again, I thought, okay, I can either go with my rook onto d4, and then probably I'll be met with e5, and then I have to move my rook. So I cannot double my rooks over there. So I first went with f4, preventing this pawn forward move. But yeah, my opponent saw that and played f6 with the ideas continuing the same. I still went with rook to d4. Opponent pushes as expected. We trade here. And now I just move my rook, attacking the isolated pawns, which were the weakness. And as you can see, with these small exchanges happening, my advantage has changed to zero point 0.9 now. So computer is favoring white more. Opponent plays the rook to d6, defending the pawn, which was again attacked. And now I just centralize my other rook as well. Uh, Opponent brings the king, and so do I. We both bring our king towards the center. Again, king activity is very important in the end games. And now my idea was simple. I want my opponent to play one of these pawn breaks because my rook is on the fourth rank. It would help me, right? I have my pieces coordinated. There are two pawns here, so it's balanced out. So the area where I want to operate upon is on the queen, on this side of the board, which is the queen side, so that I can probably take advantage of this weakness. Opponent now pushes the pawn forward, which is an inaccuracy as computers also suggesting, which allows me to. So I went with, now I just wanted to grab some space on the king side as well, with h4 and h3 and g4, and then just put my rook onto f file, and probably play some do some counter attack. Opponent brings the king forward. I put my rook onto the open file. It's always important. So now I'm about to infiltrate into the position by placing my rook onto f7, attacking the pawns, which would then be defended. But then let's see how this goes. So opponent now offers me a rook trade. What they forgot in the process was that because you are exchanging so much, suddenly you are in exchange mode. That okay, I can just exchange the rooks also. Now, as soon as I take this, opponent takes back. Something is undefended, and that's the b6 weakness, which was created in the early 10, 12 moves of the game. Now I take that, and I'm in a winning position of 1.9 odd as per computer. Yeah. This also attacks another pawn, which now needs to be defended. So opponent didn't defend and thought of exchanging another rook, and I take, and the opponent resigns because they are completely pawn down. And it's very tough to even save this pawn for now, because wherever you push it, I'll just come back and grab it, or I can simply just start pushing my a pawn and promote to a queen. So I played very solid here. Knowing when to exchange, as I said, is important. Not every exchange will be beneficial for you. So yeah, take those calls during the game, understanding the piece activity. And yeah, if you see overall, I just move this camera. Uh, so yeah, the game accuracy was good. It was at 92%, to say the least. And yeah, it was at game rated player. Game rating was around 2400. Yeah, opening is a question mark, but other two were great. So yeah, and generally, as a pattern which I try to show you is that there are people who would go for some fancy exchanges, fancy tactics, to begin with, some different openings, and win it easily in the first 10 moves, 20 moves of the game. That's one way of playing. The way that I operate at is probably grinding the opponent down, and trying to win it from there. So playing in the long run, and not trying to lose the control in the first 10, 20 moves, and then winning it at the end. So I hope it was instructive. I hope you like it. There was something to learn from for you, and you improve your chess. Thanks for watching, and I shall see you tomorrow. Take care. Bye bye.